And it's been a busy week, really, across Manhattan when it comes to the climate. And so joining me now is Adam Lake. He's the head of engagement for the Climate Group. That's a nonprofit that is hosting a Climate Week in New York City. Adam, thank you so much for joining.
Thank you for having me.
It's great to have you here at the Stock Exchange. What were your takeaways from this week in Manhattan?
I think the number one thing I reflect on, and I came in to head up Climate Week in 2018, is the humongous growth that we're seeing. So last year was a record-breaking year with 585 official events. This year we got to 900, so we're seeing a 50% increase just in 1 year. And I've not been to all 900 events, but I've been to a lot of them. What I'm really seeing is a huge increase in the amount of CEOs that are coming here, and the level of conversations happening. That's something that I'm taking away from the week the most.
Let's talk more about those CEO conversations in a moment. Climate Week, of course, ran parallel and in partnership with the UN General Assembly. We had all sorts of world leaders passing through these very doors. President of Argentina, South Africa, the European Commissioner, as well, the President of the European Commission. What is the commitment that you need to see from world leaders when it comes to the climate?
I think the main commitment I want to see is commitment. One thing that I think a lot of people realize when they come here, climate change is not an individual department. It's something that needs to be integrated across every different area that you work in. Transportation, health, the economy, jobs, buildings, housing. And I think some leaders do it very, very well. Other leaders just need a little bit more support to integrate those things. And I was at the event yesterday with the UNGA at the Met. There were international delegations there, and I think one of the things that comes out for me is it's really positive that different world leaders are speaking behind closed doors and asking each other, how can I do this better? So that's a good thing to see. People are wanting to make those changes.
I want to pivot to an event that we see as storm, in fact, impacting parts of America. Hurricane Helene hitting the U.S. What is the need that you need to see for climate resilience when it comes to the private sector?
I think, I speak to a lot of companies, and that resilience piece is humongous. You cannot underestimate it. This isn't just a question about what might happen by 2030 or 2050. If companies are not resilient, they might not make it through to the end of the year. And I think these extreme weather conditions is making that very clear to companies. I think there's a mixture of for large companies, sometimes they have the resources to be able to manage this themselves, but for small businesses, I think the government needs to have a role in providing support there as well. But resilience is definitely something we've been talking a lot about this week.
What are the recommendations that came out of Climate Week this week in New York City when it comes to transitioning toward a green economy? So
we, as I just mentioned before, 2030, 2050, these are the standard stock in trade that we talk about. But this year, our theme is It's Time, and we've come forward with a list of proposals of things that we want companies to do this year.
Yes.
And governments as well. I'm not going to run through the whole thing, otherwise we'd be here all day, but just to give an example, looking at reducing your energy usage in a building by 5%, especially here in New York, that can have a huge impact. So, the chats that we're having this week is all about looking at the short-term things that we can do right now to make sure that we're staying on track.
What is the financing that's needed to reach these goals?
Again, I think it's a mixture. I think the Inflation Reduction Act has been hugely significant. And as we see the flows of money going through to all states across America, that is really having an impact. I've been speaking to a lot of people this week, a lot of chief executives who are also saying, when they've invested in sustainability, actually it's made them more profitable and more efficient. So I think the bigger companies are doing this quite well, but I'm also speaking to a lot of smaller businesses who are finding it difficult. And I think that's an area that we want to be doing a lot more work on, is how can you make sure that everyone has access to the efficiencies and the profits that come through being more sustainable.
We talk a lot about artificial intelligence, how it is changing the game and the capital that is following AI. How can AI be used for good when it comes to the climate?
There are so many events this week about AI. It is definitely the talk of the town. For me, it's a double-edged sword. So AI can be a wonderful solution. It can provide a lot of help and a lot of support. I was speaking to a scientist yesterday who was telling me about, they're looking at a boat that uses AI so it can be powered by wind, and the algorithm that the AI supports allows it to go into the wind. There's cool stuff like that you're seeing, which is great. But the other side of it is AI uses a lot of energy and a lot of power. So there's risk involved as well. So it's great people are having conversations this week about it, because we need to make sure that we're getting those opportunities, but we're not getting cut down by those risks.
I'm just curious in terms of transportation, your recommendations there. We know it's such a large emitter, of course, here in the environment.
Yeah, transportation is huge. The angle that we take on this, and we run an initiative called EV100 to support electric vehicles, the onus cannot be on the individual. I think a lot of people would like to drive a Tesla maybe if they can afford it, but most people can't. What we need to be looking at is how can we make it so that the wider conditions make it easier for people to opt into those choices. So it can be about charging infrastructure. It can be about making sure that there is, leaseholds are buying lots of cars, so there's a second-hand market there as well. And we look at trucking is a huge area. How can we work with companies to make sure that their haulage is going to electric? So I think that's very, very huge. Airport transportation is another area, and shipping there is so much development going on at the moment as well. So Moll and Maersk are a huge organization. We're talking to an organization like them and seeing what difference they can make. So you're right to pick up on transportation, because it is a biggie.
Adam Lake, such a busy week. We appreciate you joining us here at the Stock Exchange. Adam Lake is the head of engagement for Climate Group, of course, the nonprofit hosting Climate Week.
Thank you.